David, what did the best staffing firms do differently in 2024?
Oh, great question, and not an easy one to answer. So, I think they really created a multi-pronged approach to selling. And what I mean by that is it was a rough year for the industry. In the beginning of the year, it was down around 15%. I think it got back down to only being down single digits. But we've talked to clients who 25% more business loss this year. And it's sort of a matter of who are your clients. I think that the companies that were most successful, they broke a hierarchy down of sales, and they said, okay, first let's look at our clients. Mm-hmm. What's it going to take to retain the clients? Are there opportunities to upsell the clients? Are there opportunities to cross-sell? How do we maximize those relationships we have? How do we make ourselves the first call? How do we get closer to those clients by meeting more people in those organizations, across the organization, and at more levels in the organization? So we're maximizing our probability for success. The second prong that they looked at is our sales process. Do our salespeople really know who we're trying to target? Do we have a focus? And then do we have the right messaging for that audience? And then do we have a process that doesn't look and sound just like our competitors? I know you've had Dan Morey on the show, and I've been completely ripping Dan off. But Dan talks about you can't really differentiate your service because service is an experience you have after you've purchased, but you can differentiate your sales process. And most companies are failing to create a differentiated sales process. So I think the smartest companies are changing their process so it doesn't look and sound like everybody else. And then the third layer is they're looking at the online world and their digital marketing and saying, okay, we've used it primarily for visibility and recruiting for years and years and years, but how do we use it in different ways for selling? And the strategies for selling using digital marketing are very, very different. So we're seeing more people focusing on localized SEO battles and where can they win, and focused on content marketing and really demonstrating they understand their clients' pain points, and they're looking at conversion paths. How do we get more people to take action from the website? And some of that's through just changing the website itself. Some of that's through things like retargeting ads and lead tracking to give better insight and better follow-up to website visitors. So it basically comes down to better strategy, better process, better tools.
Why are we just now thinking about this? Why is sales just now on the forefront of our thought process?
I think it's been on the forefront for a while, but one of the challenges we've heard from clients is we went from 10 plus years of a recruiting talent-starved marketplace where you didn't really sell staffing services. You sold yourself, you build relationships, but if you could recruit, you placed people. We went to a market where the clients were saying, hey, we don't need your staffing services. We got 5 vendors. We don't need another one. In fact, we need to cut down to 3. So staffing salespeople have had to go back to skills they really haven't had to use that much for a long time. So it takes time to resharpen the axe, if I can use a metaphor, but to rebuild those skills, to get comfortable doing it. And the majority of people in our industry who have worked in staffing sales in 2023 and 2024 were never through a recession. So they've never experienced what it's like to have a downturn and kind of a hostile buyer who doesn't want to hear from another staffing company because every business was hiring. So it was really, really hard if you were in sales. And I think this year people learned to change their tools, change their process, change their strategies. And I wouldn't say it's new. I think they've been trying to do it all year long, but they're just getting better and better at it as they practice.
One thing that I've been talking about on this show quite a bit, and you've probably heard me even say it internally at Haley, is now it's a 20-step sales process. It might be 20 plus touches in the sales process. And what's difficult there is some of the best sales systems are only 10 steps. So we're falling short of that mathematical number. Do you subscribe to that too?
Yeah, I've been following, it's actually a weekly newsletter from the guy who was the CEO of a company called iContact. They're an email newsletter company. And it's designed for people that are learning to better market SaaS products, software as a service. So part of what we do at Haley Marketing is software as a service, but I like to learn anything about marketing. Mm-hmm. And what this guy said is when iContact grew from 0 to 100 million in revenue, they would do a touch sequence that was at least twice a week for, get this, 6 months.
Wow.
So they planned from the first time you came in, they would have some reason to follow up with you, 52 times in their sequence. And that sort of blew my mind. It's like, we're never thinking through 52 touches. And what do you do? But that comes back to, you have to have the nurturing, because what a lot of people are doing with the 10 touch and the 15 touch campaigns is I'm hoping to find someone who's at the top of the funnel,
Right.
needs to buy, I should say at the bottom of the funnel. They're ready to buy. They're looking for a new vendor. They're dissatisfied with their current vendor and they want to talk to me. The eye contact guy made me think, like, most people aren't there. And it's going to be months, sometimes years before they're ready to shop for a new vendor, but you got to be the one who's top of mind. And you can't do that by just selling. It's more thinking about, how would I long-term nurture and build a relationship with these people?
I think the hardest part there is people need orders today, right? So we're constantly, actually I had Steve Gibson on, we were talking on Insights a little while ago. He made a comment about how the industry is full of hunters and we really need some gatherers. We need people who are going to gather relationships for the long term, knowing right now I'm hungry and I got to go out and hunt today because my livelihood, sales checks, commissions, all of that depends on me hunting right now and closing the order today. But we still need to gather. We need to nurture those relationships so that maybe I don't have to hunt as hard in June of next year.
Yeah, 100%. If you visualize a funnel,
Mm-hmm.
So from 2012 to probably 2019, the funnel was more like a cylinder. Leads came in at the top and job orders came out at the bottom, and almost everybody flowed through. And then over time, the top of that funnel got wider and wider and wider, and the bottom got a little narrower. So now to get the ones out to sell, I have to have more people at the top I'm nurturing. And a salesperson doesn't have enough hours in the day to just rely on calls to do that.
Full agree. I want to talk about 2025. What will the best staffing firms do differently as we look at the upcoming calendar year?
They're going to look to see where growth is going to happen in their market. They're going to become more focused. They're going to become deeper experts in their clients' businesses. Because you and I can have a talk all day long about marketing. And if a salesperson calls us and they're going to talk marketing, we're like, yeah, all in, let's talk. If they called you or me and said, hey, let's talk about your staffing needs, or as I get now, let's talk about hiring offshore talent, because I get that all day long, every day. That's not top of mind for me. But if they let's talk about how marketing productivity is changing in the era of AI and what you need to do to build a more productive marketing agency, they got my attention. But somebody's only going to know that if they're deep inside the world of marketing. So if I'm a salesperson in a staffing company, I'm going to pick the industries in my community that are likely to do well. And I would start doing some research, and I would actually go to ChatGPT and I would ask it to summarize all the research for me about what industries are likely to grow next year. And then I'd look for their trade conferences and I'd look for their websites, and I'd just start reading and listening and learning to speak their language, because that makes it much easier for me to know how to connect with them and define, if I'm a hunter, to find the people with pain points, because those pain points won't present themselves as staffing needs. They'll present themselves as some workforce or some business challenge. And then the staffing professional's job is to say, no, that's a staffing problem. Let me show you how to solve that with people, with hiring, with temporary workers.
Yeah, I think alongside of that, it's getting to know the individual that you're prospecting with as well. I get a ton of in-mail about hiring needs and pain points. And you know this, I don't do any hiring at Haley anymore. So all of those sort of go to junk or spam, or I delete them, right? But if somebody reached out and they were talking about marketing challenges and how it related to hiring needs, I have the ear of a lot of people that hire at Haley Marketing, so I could absolutely funnel people to the right people here. But it's almost like lazy selling. They're reaching out, they're blindly seeing a title, and they're saying, oh, well, you're director of digital, you must do some hiring, so let's send out the automation to Brad. And I think I'm with you. It's getting to know the industry, and it's also fundamentally getting to know the person.
I like that,
keeps them up at night.
You're seeing that with the automations, because I'm a fan of automation.
Sure.
I'm a huge fan of artificial intelligence, but I'm seeing the AI automations that basically I read your LinkedIn profile and like, hey, let me send you a UPenn hoodie. It's like, do you even know what city UPenn is in Pennsylvania? Right. Do you think it's Penn State? No, but if you said, hey, like part of my LinkedIn bio says, beer league hockey enthusiast. And I did have somebody reach out saying, look, I played hockey forever. I'm a beer league guy now. He built an instant bond with me because
100%.
It was sincere and it wasn't just an AI. Now the AI may have come up with it and then he just tweaked it enough so that it was for me, because that personalization, as you said, knowing the person makes a huge difference.
It opens the door, right? If we're all getting 100 emails, 100 plus emails a day, I can only imagine what your inbox is like. I know what mine is like. If we're getting 100 plus emails a day, it doesn't take much to cut through the clutter to be authentic. But, and I heard this on the Modern Wisdom podcast that I listen to religiously, Chris Williamson had said that it takes a lot of courage to be authentic these days, and it takes a lot of desire and intention to be authentic. In a world of automation, in a world of AI, in a world where you can just press the easy button in a lot of ways, it takes a lot of effort to be authentically human on the back end of that. And I think that's what the best companies are doing right now.
Yeah, they're doing their homework. They're putting the legwork in to follow up. They're still picking up the phone, and that's one of the things that in 2025 shouldn't be this is a best practice. This should be in everybody's practice, but there's been a reluctance to call because they're hard.
Sure.
But the salespeople that can have that personal outreach and make the calls and understand the buyer's industry and, as you said, understand the buyer personally are far more likely to have success. They might not have instant success that the company's looking to hire. As you said, it's not necessarily that you're hiring today, but it might be 3 months from now or 6 months from now or a year from now. But I'm starting to build the relationships so that I become the preferred person to reach out to when it's time to find a new staffing partner.
Yeah, I use the golf club analogy there, right? It's winter in Buffalo. I know you're probably in Florida right now, but it's winter in Buffalo. I'm not buying golf clubs today, but come June, I'm going to be thinking about it. And Titleist needs to stay top of mind so that I know to buy them instead of TaylorMade. And right now, it's the marketing that they're doing in the winter that's going to get me to buy those clubs in June. I'm not buying now, right? Actually, it's not too bad outside today, but I'm still not golfing.
I'm smiling ear to ear because when I was growing up, the guy who lived in my neighborhood was friends with my dad, and he sold swimming pools. And he used to come over and he goes, "When do you think I sell the most pools?" I'm like, "I don't know, April, May, when it's starting to get nice out." And he goes, "No, February." He goes, "If it's miserable and snowy and gray, I sell pools all day long because I'm not selling a pool. I'm selling summer. I'm selling enjoying your life in Buffalo." I'm like, wow, that's just like, okay, that is such a phenomenal way of thinking about the emotional side of a very hard purchase of buying a pool. But same thing with staffing. So often we're thinking about the left brain. What's the logical reason you need work to get done? Or I need to get these temps in there because it's my busy season or I got productivity issues. What's the emotional side? How do you make that connection when it's the equivalent of February in your client's business?
It's a lot to think of there. And as you're listening now, I would encourage you to think about what you could be saying to your clients that are more than just, "Hey, can I talk to you about staffing services?" David, I want to ask you this question. Is traditional marketing, things like stopping by with donuts that I know our industry loves to do, picking up the phone and calling, email marketing, as we look at, I'll say email is sort of traditional, but as we look at AI, as we look at automation, are those traditional means of marketing going the way of the dodo bird, or what should people be doing with those sort of now what some might consider outdated practices?
Yeah, and I love the fact that people consider it outdated. So the analogy I love to use there is I want you to think about a busy supermarket.
Yep.
Okay, and so you've got 10 items or less, and every line's got 50 people in it. Then you see the express line, and there's no one in it. You go over there, and you're like, "I'm going to check out first." So the traditional marketing has become the express lane. There's not many people in the line, and it's so much easier to differentiate in that line because there's less competition, there's less noise, and you have easier access to the decision makers. So, for example, I don't jump up and down about donut boxes, but I will say having something really good to drop off. We had a client that was doing a direct marketing campaign, and they did a FedEx. They weren't just locally; they were targeting people in an industry over a fairly wide geography. They said, "We're going to send people to FedEx because why?" It's 100% of the people are going to open it. So even if it's only for a fleeting few seconds, I have their attention. Now, if I have the right message, I can get them interested and take them to the next step. And the interest has to be, what is their pain point? What is going on in their world? What do they crave? What's the swimming pool in February in their world? So I do think that traditional marketing, for most companies, they'll say, "Oh, that's dated. I don't want to do that." And that is such an opportunity because in marketing, you win by being different. You don't win by doing what everyone else is doing.
Couldn't agree more. David, we're going to use this episode as a way to wrap up 2024. And I want to play a couple clips here for you from the show. Before I do that, and before I get your takes on what a couple other guests have said on the show, anything else on your mind for 2025 as it relates to marketing for the staffing industry that you have to share?
So as you know, we are double down all in and then some on artificial intelligence. And I think companies need to be thinking about what's the strategy. I was at the Macon Marketing AI conference last summer, And several of the presenters said, everyone's using AI. Everyone's doing it right now. The problem is everyone's doing pilot projects. They're testing things and they don't figure out how to take pilot to full production where everybody's using it. We see it with our clients. Oh, we're going to write themselves. We're going to go use ChatGPT and we can do that on our own.
Yeah.
But they don't have the training. You use golf clubs. I own golf clubs. You own golf clubs. Tiger Woods owns golf clubs. We can all own the same set of golf clubs.
Yep.
3 of us are not getting the same result. I can guarantee I'm getting the worst result of the 3 of us. So same thing with AI. You have to really train people to use the tools if they're going to use it well. You need to get people working with you. We've got people training us. Spend a lot of money on somebody to come in and show us what can be done with the tool. So as you're thinking about next year, you absolutely need it as a productivity tool, not just for marketing, but you're going to need it in recruiting. You're going to need it in candidate communications. You're going to need it in providing a better experience. But what tools? How will we integrate it? What will our people do? How will we train people? Because it's not just this silver bullet that I buy the tool and it's going to fix things. No, it's going to be a pilot. If we use it wrong, people get frustrated. Then they don't use it. And then we step backwards instead of forwards. And our competitor who managed it better is way ahead of us. So sorry, long answer, but that's a biggie for me that I'm seeing going on. And I'm seeing a lot of buzz about AI, but it's not always the right advice.
AI to me is sort of like the Wild West that social media was maybe 8 to 10 years ago, right? Anybody could do social media marketing. There were some people who were very, very talented at it. I think we were very, very talented at it. I think we still are very, very talented at it. But anybody could post on Facebook. But to your analogy of if 3 people have the same set of golf clubs, some people are going to hit the ball better than others. I fully agree. And I subscribe to that thought process as well. So it's how you use the tool. It's actually a fantastic segue. I want to pull up a clip here from Trisha Tampkin, who we had on the show earlier this year.
Someone who's good at AI.
Very, very good at AI. So if we could do this right, we're going to load up her clip here. And let's hear what Trisha had to say about ChatGPT.
What's probably important for everybody to understand, I made a shift about maybe 8 months ago. I took a Post-it note, put it on the bottom of my monitor, and it said, how can GPT support me in this? Right? Because literally GPT can support you whether you want it to write for you or you want it to give you ideas, whether you want to proofread or you want to translate. If you want to come up with jokes or quotes or stats or like it literally can support you in anything that you're doing personally or professionally.
Let's talk about that one. So that clip probably resonated with me the most out of the entire 26 episodes that we did this year. It fundamentally got me to think differently about some of the AI tools that I've been using. What does a clip like that mean to you?
Well, I was smiling because I couldn't agree more. And it's sort of, as soon as ChatGPT became public, what was November of 2022, I said, this is going to change our world. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I'm brilliant. It was just like that obvious. But then I personally wasn't very good at adopting. It took me a while and I kept thinking, oh, well, I got to wait for training or I got to go do some course in my free time. And then I just started playing with it. And then it's like, okay, I can do this. And first I did the basic stuff. I can rewrite something. Oh, I can edit something. Oh, I can help me with ideation. Now I'm having conversations with it. I did one. I was looking to come up with a brand name for a bundle of products. And I'm like, I don't like anything I'm coming up with. So I sat down with ChatGPT and said, here's what I'm trying to do. Ask me questions till you guys have enough information to tell me what I should name this product. And it went back and forth with probably 7, 8 questions that it asked me. And at first it gave them all at once. I'm like, no, that's too much. Just give me one at a time. So we went back and forth, question, answer. And it was just like having a conversation. And then it came back with 10 names. I'm like, holy crap, I like 6 of these better than anything I had in my mind.
Yep.
So, the thing, we're working with Trust Insights and Chris Penn, and he talks about, it's got superhuman powers. It's got incredible speed. You look at all the things it can do that we don't like to do. And I love the idea of put a Post-it note and say, what can ChatGPT do? But also learning which tool is going to get me the best output. I'm all in on what Trisha said. And the more I use it, I do worry that I'm becoming dumber because I don't have to think as much. But I like when somebody said using a system like this is almost like programming, but in English. So I have to think about how to have the conversations in very clear, distinct ways to get the results I want.
Do you type to ChatGPT or do you speak to it?
I still type. I haven't really done the speak to it. I watched a
did.
video about the video was titled "Having an Einstein in Your Pocket," and the guy said, "Yeah, take your phone, push the microphone button, and just talk to it." I haven't done that yet.
So that was, we had Kyle Denhoff on the show a little while ago, old friend of Haley Marketing. I brought him back on. He's over at HubSpot now. And he was talking about how when he walks his dog or when he goes for a walk or a run, I think he says dog, but when he goes for a walk, he talks to ChatGPT, gets the responses, and then continuously goes that way. I was out for a long run about 2 weeks ago and just had a full on conversation with my phone because something was on my mind and I wanted to work through it. And it was different. To say it was different is an understatement, but I like it better that way. It was very, very good. But in the thought of Trisha of how can AI or how can GPT support me in this, I think ultimately knowing what the end result is and knowing what you're wanting to do is critical, right? Not just using it as a way to waste time, but actually using it as a way to be a little bit more productive in your day to day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of Chris's exact examples was like if you're a podcaster and you're pitching, well, you can simultaneously make a video pitch, an audio pitch, a written pitch, and let the GPT essentially create all the different variations for you exactly the way you wanted them to sound.
All right, let's get to one more clip here from Tom Erb, who was talking about how we're in an era of informational buying.
We're in an era of informational buying. You know, the days of us just calling up and they go, you know what, today's your lucky day. That's over. They're going to go out. They can do quick research on you, and all the information that you have out there needs to enforce what your value prop is, or even better yet, give it to them. Right. You know, don't make them go out and search for it. So, because who knows what they're going to find. So instead, provide it to them. Provide them testimonials and case studies and you know, references and all the different things that just show, you know, data, as much data as we possibly can. All the stuff that quantifiably shows our value.
Yeah. Impulse buy. What are your thoughts when you hear about something like that?
Well, love Tom, love his ideas. I was going to pick on him, but I decided not to as I was listening. I do think informational buying is critical. The one place I might disagree with him a little bit is people first need to know why they should care about what you can do before they need to know why they should care about you specifically. So what I mean by that is they've got a problem. So the first information they need to know is, how is what you're doing going to solve my problem? Not your company specifically, but how is staffing a tool? I know you've talked about the analogy of the drill bit in the hole. You know, I can't buy the hole.
That's coming up as our final clip here.
Oh, I stole it. Sorry. I didn't even know that was coming.
It's okay.
The idea is I have to understand that staffing is a tool. I have to understand what the customer wants. And then I need to be teaching them. And don't just make assumptions, because you may assume your customer knows what you sell and how to use it. Well, they have perceptions about what you do. So as an informational salesperson, your job is to help steer those conversations so that you can show them the reality of what you do is geared towards the perception of what they want to get done. Then to where time I agree 100% is the reviews, the testimonials. Now when you get to the bottom of the funnel, it's here's why you should trust us, because we've been there, done it, and we can do it again for you. So I am all in on the information buying. I also believe that by the time somebody's willing to talk to you, they're 50 to 60% down the road to making a buying decision.
For sure.
And if you're not already, if you're only there because they had to go find 2 other vendors, you're going to lose. If you're there because they found you and you're number one, and then they're going to go find 2 people to benchmark against you, you're going to win.
All right, let's do one more clip from the show. You kind of alluded to it. Again, friends, if you're new to Take the Stage, we have put out a show every other week all year. David's going to wrap up 2024 here and be our 26th interview of the show, or really conversation of the year. This one is from Mark Winter, and I think when I was sitting here trying to power rank the clips that I wanted to bring to the show, because there are a ton of sound bites, right? So throughout the conversation, we're having 30 to 45 minute conversations with everybody, and there are a world of clips, but I think this one really summarizes to me a heck of a lot. So David, I want to play this clip from Mark Winter, and then I want to get your thoughts on what it means to you. No one needs a 1/2-inch drill bit. They need a 1/2-inch hole. Mm-hmm. I know what that means, but why don't you walk us through what that might mean for the listeners?
Yeah. So one of the first questions that I'll ask staffing companies, what do you sell? What do you sell? Mm-hmm. What is it you're selling? And the answer that I get 95% of the time is people. I sell people.
Yeah.
And on its surface, that's what it looks like. But what we're really doing is we're selling what the people do. So as a client company, as someone that uses staffing services, if you were to ask them, hey, what are you buying? In some cases, they'd tell you people, but what they're buying most of the time is solutions. They need a manufacturing order filled. They need pallets dropped. They need something built. They need an executive to run a business unit of theirs. That's what they're actually trying to accomplish. My business partner Jim says all the time, it's if we're in the people business, we're in trouble, because most of our customers are trying to figure out how to do a lot of jobs without people. They're trying to automate. They're trying to do some.
Right.
So that means that when we talk to them, we've got to be talking about the hole that they're trying to drill. What's the hole for? How big does the hole have to be? What are you going to do once you have the hole? Do you need a bunch of holes or just one hole? So that's the type, and it's really centering our conversation around their business, around what they're actually trying to accomplish, instead of dragging them into our business.
What's that one mean to you, David?
All right. Well, this is you teed up one of my favorite stories. So
awesome.
You probably know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I was at a conference, and I was on the stage talking to an audience, and I, somewhere in my presentation, asked people a question like Mark said: why do people buy your services? And some guy in the audience says, because they need a temp. And I looked at him and I said, no one needs a temp. And I kept talking, and I could tell he wasn't buying what I was saying. And I went again, like, you heard me right. No one needs a temp. And I said, tell me why people really buy from you. And he goes, well, they're not stupid. They buy from you because they need temps. I'm like, yeah, but no, they don't. No one's buying from you because they need a temp. And so we kind of went back and forth for a little bit. And this gentleman was much bigger than me. Yeah. And he was clearly getting quite irate with me as I kept pushing him. Luckily, before things escalated too far, I said, no one needs a temp. Why do they buy from you? And he goes, because I keep their effing machines running. And then I could see the light bulb. He's like, oh my God. I'm not in the business of temporary staffing. I work with manufacturers to keep their machines running. That's why they keep me, because if they don't keep their lines running, they're not making money. So it helped for him to understand. And as Mark was saying, the same thing. Every client has a rationale for using staffing service, but staffing is not the product, it's the tool. So we have to think about, how do we show people how to use that tool? And that's going back to Tom. That's that informational marketing. How do we show people how to use the tool in new and better ways? Because in 2025, they're going to be looking to automate. I know, who knows what's going to happen, but with an incoming change of administration and what's being promised, okay, we're going to have tariffs. That's going to impact some industries. We're going to have changes in immigration policy. That's going to affect some industries. We're having inflation, hopefully continuing to go down, and interest rates come down. That will affect some industries. How are your clients going to be impacted? What will they need to accomplish? And then how do people as a tool help them to accomplish those? Because if you can tie those things together, now you've differentiated your sales process, you're using information, and you're selling the solution that they want to buy. You're kind of tying together all those talks. Oh yeah, and you can use AI to figure it all out. So Tricia had that too.
Right. Loop it all back together, bring it back full circle. David, I can't thank you enough for coming on this episode to take the stage. Before I let you go, I want to run you through our rapid fire round if you got a second.
Oh, you got it.
First question, one book that has fundamentally changed your life.
So I'm looking at it on a bookshelf right above me now. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine by a guy named Chet Holmes. Not a new book, written in, I think, in the 1990s. But if you want a textbook on how to sell, how to market, how to hire salespeople, it's probably the most influential book that I've ever read in figuring out how to be a better marketer.
I've known you a while. I would have bet my next paycheck that you were going to say Think and Grow Rich.
That's to me the most fundamental one.
Sure.
So it just is not on my shelf above me. So I took it easy out and looked at the one I saw. But Think and Grow Rich too, because that is about the understanding what you want and the power of persistence. And if you listen, for anybody who's never read it or never listened to it, if you listen to almost any speaker talk, their presentation is based on that book.
100%. And then my second question, one piece of advice for someone just starting in the staffing and recruiting industry, what are you going to tell them?
Focus. Where can you be exceptional? Who can you serve? What does that customer look like? What industry, what size company, what decision maker? What's the value you're providing? The thing startups do that's a giant mistake is they're so desperate for sales. They just go after everything and anyone. And the more you can focus, the more you specialize, the easier it is to differentiate, the easier it is to stand out, the easier it actually is to bring in those initial sales. It might take a little longer to find the ideal customer, but it's so much easier to grow your business when you're focused.
And then, David, one more question for you. As we look at 2025, I want to give you the opportunity, if there's anything new on the horizon for Haley Marketing that our listeners should know about, anything you want to tell our listeners to be mindful of in 2025 as it relates to Haley Marketing?
Yeah, and I think you're going to be, one thing to be mindful of is just the nature. We do a lot of content marketing. We've done it forever, and the nature of content marketing is going to change. AI is changing the game. So now it's going to be not just about, am I getting a blog out every week? It's going to be, how do I differentiate the quality? How am I making sure it's matched the audience? If I'm doing SEO, we're now doing things with programmatic SEO. So we actually are creating content pages at scale to help companies rank faster and for more things. And so you're going to see this marriage between what AI is good at and what you need to do. So you're going to need to put those things together, but in ways that are not the same as everybody else, because I'm sort of terrified of everybody gets AI and we have 100x amount of content on every channel, which makes it 1,000 times more difficult to get someone's attention. So now we have to be more personalized, more on target, more focused on who our audience is and how we deliver value.
Friends, if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for listening to the first year, we'll call it first season of Take the Stage. It's been an absolutely incredible run. Wasn't really sure what to expect when we launched in January, but it has been a fantastic ride. We've had some phenomenal guests on. If this is the first time you're listening to this show, make sure you go back and listen to the 25 other episodes from the year. You've seen Trisha Tampkin, Tom Erb, Mark Winter. We've had countless others on the show who are all sharing their industry expertise, where our whole effort here is really to bring conference caliber speakers to the podcast. So make sure you go back and check out those episodes. And David, I can't thank you enough for coming on and taking the stage with me this afternoon.
Absolutely happy to. And, I just want to say hats off to you for coming up with the concept of this show and how well it's been executed, because it is really good information that you're not going to find anywhere else in our industry.
I appreciate that. Hey, everyone, you take care. Have a fantastic and happy new year, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.